Welcome to lecture 6.4. So now we're going to switch from classical conditioning and we're going to talk about operant conditioning. First, I want you to go to Moodle, and in the folder Chapter 6 Learning Lecture Videos, you will see a video titled The Difference Between Classical and Operant Conditioning. Please watch that now. Welcome back. So, as you can see, classical conditioning is very different than operant conditioning. Classical conditioning is reflexive. Operant conditioning is more of what you think of when you think of learning. Behavior is shaped by the consequences that follow it. And so operant conditioning is defined as a form of learning in which behavior is influenced by the consequences that follow it. Now, the word operant. An operant is a voluntary behavior that operates upon the environment to produce consequences, rewards or punishments. We repeat or cease behaviors based on its outcomes, based on the consequences we experience when we demonstrate that behavior. So an operant is a behavior that operates upon the environment. Now, by using consequences, we can increase or decrease the possibility of a behavior. So the word reinforcement, we use a reinforcement to strengthen a response, to increase the likelihood that that response is going to occur. We use punishment to weaken the outcome, to decrease the likelihood that a behavior will manifest itself. So let's talk first about Thorndike's law of effect. Thorndike was a really clever psychologist, and he was the first to really start exploring the idea of operant conditioning and the science behind it. So Thorndike's law of effect states that we repeat behaviors that lead to favorable consequences, and we do not repeat behaviors that lead to unfavorable consequences. That's kind of like a well, duh theory, but let's look at the science of all that. So according to Thorndike, any behavior that leads to a, quote, satisfying state of affairs will be more likely to occur. Any behavior that leads to a, quote, annoying state of affairs is less likely to occur. So, with classical conditioning, we're linking stimuli. With operant conditioning, we're linking behavior with consequences. With classical conditioning, learned behaviors are reflexive. With operant conditioning, learned behaviors are the result of consequences. I think when we hear the word consequence, that tends to have a negative connotation to it. Within learning science, it is a neutral term. It refers to punishments or rewards. So Thorndike did this great experiment in which he used cats in a puzzle box that he created, from which the cats could escape by pressing a lever, pulling a string, or tilting a pole. Let me show you the next slide so you can see the picture first. So Thorndike set up his puzzle box, and the cat would be locked in, which cats don't like, but there were multiple ways for the cat to learn how to open the box and get out. But it had to figure out how to do that. So that's what the puzzle box looks like. Now, cats were pretty quick at figuring out what they had to do to escape from the box. But they didn't show any insight-oriented learning. There was no eureka moment for them. they simply exhibited random behaviors until the box opened. And with time, put together, if I do this, the box opens. So what's interesting is that each time the cat was placed in the box, it went through different behaviors trying to escape the box. Then it would stumble across the behavior that would open the box. It was always an accidental discovery for the cat because they don't have that kind of insight. With time, the cat would learn to shape its behavior. So over the course of many, many trials, the amount of time it took the cat to get out of the box was less and less and less. But it was at a gradual, irregular pattern. So let me get to my next slide. Whoops. So here's a chart of the outcomes of one of the set of trials with one of the subjects. So this is looking at the number of trials, the number of times they had the cat in the box, and how quickly the cat escaped. So as you can see, with time, the cat did get out of the box more quickly over time. So with each trial, some trials took less time than others. At first it took about 180 seconds to get out of the box. Basically because cats just kind of freak out and fling themselves all over the box. And so it just happened to start freaking out. And for that first, 5 or 6 times, just that simple freak out ended up, the cat ended up bumping whatever it needed to bump to get out of the box, and it would open. And they'd get outside of the puzzle box. Now, if this was insight-oriented, this chart would look different. This chart would look like this. There would be no gradual decrease. If this was a eureka moment, you would see basically just a very quick decrease where by this point, by trial 50 and 60, the cat needs 2 seconds to do it. But that's not what we see because this wasn't an insight-oriented learned experience. This wasn't a learned behavior due to insight. This was, the cat would be put in the puzzle box and it would have to at first accidentally discover how to open the box. But because we do see that the cat, after many, many trials, was getting out of the box more quickly over time, the averages decreased. We do know that the cat learned that it had to press this certain lever to open the box. It's just sometimes it took it 100 seconds, and sometimes it did it in 20 seconds. But there was a decrease in how long it took. Cats did get faster and faster at getting out of the puzzle box. Check my previous slide. Okay. So after many trials, the amount of time it took the cat to escape the box shortened in a gradual and irregular pattern. So this shows that the cat slowly began to associate escape behaviors with escape. Now, escape is the reinforcement. That's kind of the consequence that the cat wants. So Thorndike wants the cat to figure out how to get out of the box. Cats don't like to be locked in boxes. And so for the cat, the reinforcement was getting out of the box. So this showed that cats slowly began to associate escape behaviors with escape. If this was insight-oriented learning, the cats would be out of that box pretty quickly. It would not take 60 trials, and they would get out of the box faster every time. To the point where, it takes them 10 seconds, and then, that's pretty much as fast as they can go. Now, for operant conditioning to be effective, the learned response must be followed by the reinforcement immediately. So with the puzzle box, the cat's in the puzzle box, and it has to press that lever, and the box opens. There can't be any delay. Delay will significantly impair learning when it comes to operant conditioning. So the box needs to open immediately when the lever is pressed, and that wasn't hard to do with the puzzle box. Now, something that's interesting is whenever we learn a behavior, it comes at the expense of learning other behaviors. So when you put the cat in the puzzle box, it learns the behavior it needs to do to open the box, and it stops experimenting with other solutions, with other behaviors that might open the box as well. Okay. So, this is just a repeat slide. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so we'll move on to operant conditioning in more detail in our next lecture. Thank you.